What if Beetee and Wiress won the 75th Hunger Games? A Hunger Games alternate reality story. What if the events of the Hunger Games had unfolded differently? What if one decision, one hidden plan, or one unexpected discovery changed the fate of Katniss, Peeta, and every person living under the Capitol's control? Sometimes, the smallest moment can reshape an entire story. What if familiar characters were forced to follow different paths? What hidden strengths would emerge? And who would survive when intelligence became more powerful than strength? This is a small glimpse into another reality, a world that might have existed if the games had played out differently. This is the story of what might have happened if Beetee and Wiress of District 3 won the 75th Hunger Games by turning the Capitol's own technology against the other victors. The Quarter Quell. President Snow believed the 75th Hunger Games would destroy the hope spreading throughout Panem. Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark had survived the previous games by threatening to eat poisonous berries rather than kill one another. Their defiance had inspired resistance across the districts, even though the Capitol continued describing their actions as a desperate expression of love. Snow needed to remind Panem that no one could defeat the Capitol. The Quarter Quell announcement declared that the new tributes would be chosen from each district's existing victors. Former champions who had believed they were safe would be forced back into the arena. District 3 had 2 victors available. Beetee Latier was known throughout the Capitol as an inventor. Years earlier, he had won his games by using electrical wires to create a trap that killed several tributes at once. Wiress was quieter. She spoke in fragments, noticed patterns others ignored, and understood machines almost instinctively. Capitol audiences often treated her unusual behavior as entertainment, but Beetee knew that Wiress saw connections long before anyone else. At the District 3 reaping, Beetee's name was selected first. Wiress's name followed. Neither appeared surprised. They had spent years repairing communication systems and designing technologies for the Capitol. They understood how President Snow used information, surveillance, and fear. They also knew the Quarter Quell was not simply another Hunger Games. It was an execution disguised as entertainment. During the train journey, Beetee and Wiress sat before a wall-sized screen displaying previous Hunger Games arenas. Their mentor attempted to discuss sponsors and alliances, but Beetee barely listened. He studied the design of the force fields, camera placements, and environmental controls. Wiress watched footage of the victors selected from the other districts. Katniss and Peeta represented District 12. Finnick Odair and Mags came from District 4, while Johanna Mason and Blight represented District 7. Brutus and Enobaria of District 2 were among the most dangerous competitors. Wiress tapped the screen every time the footage changed. Again, she whispered. Beetee replayed the announcement. Again. He played it once more. Wiress pointed toward a brief flicker in the corner of the screen. It appeared for less than a second whenever the official Capitol seal was displayed. A signal interruption, Beetee said. Wiress shook her head. A door. Their mentor looked confused. Beetee understood. The Capitol transmitted encrypted control signals through the same broadcast network used to televise the games. The viewers saw entertainment, but hidden within the transmission were commands controlling arena cameras, force fields, weather systems, and mutations. If Beetee and Wiress could access the signal from inside the arena, they might control more than the audience ever imagined. Their mentor warned them that tampering with Capitol technology would guarantee their deaths. Beetee looked toward the passing landscape. Entering the arena already guarantees our deaths. Wiress smiled faintly. Unless the door opens. The Capitol expected District 3 to appear in costumes covered with blinking lights and artificial wires. Instead, their stylist designed 2 simple silver outfits that reflected every camera flash directed toward them. As their chariot entered the avenue, Beetee and Wiress appeared surrounded by thousands of fragments of light. The brighter the Capitol cameras became, the more difficult it was to see the tributes clearly. The audience loved the effect. President Snow did not. From his private viewing platform, he noticed that several cameras briefly lost focus when Beetee and Wiress passed. The disruption lasted only a few seconds, but Snow ordered his technicians to examine the footage. They found nothing unusual. Beetee had already learned something valuable. The Capitol's cameras could be blinded. During training, most victors concealed their true abilities. Katniss practiced archery only briefly. Finnick avoided displaying the full speed of his trident, while Johanna pretended to be less observant than she truly was. Beetee and Wiress made no effort to appear dangerous. They spent hours examining knots, wires, batteries, and mechanical traps. Other victors watched them but saw only two older tributes who would be easy to eliminate. Brutus laughed when Wiress arranged small metal pieces into a circle. "You planning to build yourself a toy?" Wiress did not answer. Beetee studied the pieces after Brutus left. They represented 12 sections surrounding a center point. "A clock," he said quietly. Wiress nodded. "Not yet." Beetee realized she was predicting the arena before they had entered it. The game makers favored symmetry and repetition. The Quarter Quell arena would likely be more controlled than any previous environment, with each threat activated according to an exact schedule. During their private training session, Beetee requested wire, a power source, and a small receiver. The game makers watched from above as he constructed a crude device. When he activated it, every light in the room turned off. A moment later, the lights returned, and the game makers discovered that each of their screens displayed the District 3 symbol. Beetee looked upward. "Technology does not belong to the person who builds it," he said. "It belongs to the person who understands it." He received a training score of 9. Wiress entered after him. She did not construct anything. Instead, she walked around the room and identified every hidden camera, pressure sensor, and concealed weapon. When she finished, she stood beneath the main viewing window. 17 weaknesses, she said. The game makers gave her a score of 8. The scores were high enough to attract sponsors, but low enough to keep the strongest victors from treating them as immediate threats. Caesar Flickerman introduced Beetee as one of the greatest scientific minds in Panem. The Capitol audience applauded enthusiastically. Caesar asked whether Beetee planned to use electricity again. Beetee smiled. "Electricity is only dangerous when people forget where it comes from." Caesar laughed, although he did not understand the warning. When Wiress appeared, the audience became quieter. Caesar attempted to guide her through simple questions, but Wiress stared toward the lights above the stage. "Too bright," she said. The audience laughed. Wiress pointed at the cameras. "They need everyone watching." Caesar asked what she meant. "The games only exist if people watch." The laughter stopped. Caesar halved. 1, 1. Caesar halved. Caesar halved. Caesar halved. As. 1. Caesar halved. 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 I. Caesar halved. 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 Caesar quickly moved to another question, but Beetee understood what Wiress had revealed. The Capitol's greatest weapon was not the arena, it was the broadcast. If they could take control of what Panem saw, they could change the meaning of the games. On the morning of the games, Beetee and Wiress were separated. District 3 technicians prepared Beetee's tracking device. While they worked, he noticed a small transmitter attached to the injection system. The tracker did more than report location and vital signs. It also received commands from the arena control room. Beetee asked the technician whether the tracker could deliver electrical shocks. The technician became nervous. "It monitors tribute health." "That was not my question." Peacekeepers entered before Beetee could continue. In another room, Wiress examined her own tracker. She tapped the metal twice. "Door," she whispered. Beetee rose into a tropical arena surrounded by water. The cornucopia stood on a narrow strip of land extending from a central island. 12 sections of jungle formed a circle around the arena. Wiress stood several platforms away. The other victors immediately looked toward the weapons. Beetee looked toward the sky. A thin shimmering line revealed the force field enclosing the arena. The gong sounded. Katniss fired an arrow toward the supplies. Finnick reached the cornucopia first, while Brutus and Enobaria attacked from the opposite side. Beetee avoided the center. He grabbed a coil of wire and a small metal tool before entering the jungle. Wires followed him. Blight from District 7 joined them, and the three moved away from the fighting. They soon encountered Katniss, Peeta, Finnick, Mags, and Johanna. The group formed an uncertain alliance. Most of the others believed Beetee's wire could eventually be used as a weapon. only Wiress appeared focused on the jungle itself. At midnight, lightning struck a massive tree. An hour later, blood rain fell in another section. Then poisonous fog filled the next. Wiress repeated the same two words, tick, tock. Johanna grew frustrated. She has been saying that for hours. Beetee watched the direction of the lightning. He examined the sun, the arrangement of the jungle, and the order of the attacks. Tick, tock, Wiress said again. Katniss understood first. It is a clock. Beetee arranged stones in a circle. Each section of the jungle represented 1 hour. Lightning struck at midnight and noon. Blood rain arrived at 1, fog at 2, and other dangers followed around the arena. The victors now knew when each threat would appear. However, Beetee noticed something else. Every hour, shortly before a new danger began, the trackers beneath their skin vibrated slightly. The capital was using the trackers to communicate with the arena. The door Wiress had noticed was real.